All right, so the first one is going to be a triangle that's kind of got its bottom side this way, and then we'll call this corner A, this will be B, this will be C, and then we'll just make one that's like looks similar, obviously, but just is a little bit smaller. Okay, because remember, we're dealing with triangles that are similar. In other words, the angles are the same, but this length of the sides is different. Okay, the lengths of the sides is different. So let's actually put that here in the side of our notes. First, let me finish the triangle. So 55, this is 65, and this is 44. And then the missing side we're looking for is that one. And then the other piece of information they're going to give you is a congruence statement. It'll look like this. It'll say, it'll have a little triangle symbol like that. And then A, B, C is the first one. And then it's going to give you this wavy symbol, which remember, this means similar. That means similar, not congruent, but similar. Okay, it's similar to triangle FED. And some might be wondering, well, why didn't you put in ABC order, like alphabetical, DEF? Because you put it in the order that each side corresponds to. Okay, so A corresponds to F, B to E, C to D. Okay, and not necessarily A to D and so forth. All right, so the first thing is similar, which is what this means. That little symbol just means similar. You're going to have equal angles, but different side lengths. Length. Okay? So equal angles, but different side length. All right, so here again, we want to identify corresponding sides, right? So here's the deal though. In these ones, that was easy because there's no letters labeling them, and they were just kind of oriented the same, right? So you can imagine, like, if this was turned a different direction and it didn't look the same, you wouldn't know what side corresponds to what. So you need this statement, this congruent statement, to let you know. Sorry, it's a terrible arrow, but this is called a congruence statement. Congruence statement. All right, so how the order of the letters will tell you what's congruent. So for instance, A, B, first two letters are going to be congruent to the first two letters in the other triangle, FE. So that means if I go to the triangle, AB, which is this side, should be congruent to FE, this side. Notice how this side, DF and AB, are not the ones that are congruent, right? So it actually looks like the triangle was turned or rotated. All right, so now how about another side? How about side BC? Okay, well, BC, since it's the last two letters, is going to be congruent to ED because that's the last two letters in this statement. So that means that this side, BC, is congruent to ED, this side. All right. So again, that's why in that third section, when you guys get to, oops, sorry, I don't want to go here. When you get to this section at the bottom, you need to look at that congruence statement to figure out which sides correspond. Okay, so how do we use that? Of course, right? So now we're still going to do the same math, okay, but now we're going to use this congruence statement to figure out how to set it up. Now, just like I said yesterday, for a missing side, we can set up any variable that you want. Okay, and just go ahead and use X if you want most of the time, but again, it doesn't matter. that will be the first thing we put on top. And on the bottom, we put the side that is congruent to x. So the side that's congruent to x is this side, BC. So I'm going to put the 65 under there. Okay, and then again, I go back to the triangle with the missing side, and I'm going to take the 44, put that on top, and then the 44 is congruent to 55 on this side, so that will go on the bottom. Now we just need to solve for x. So what we're going to do is multiply both sides by 65. Okay, these will cancel out. And to get x, now all I need to do, or actually side DE is x. We're going to multiply 44 times 65 and divide by 55. To do that, I'm going to use Desmos. So let's open up a new tab for Desmos. Scientific calculator. We're going to do 44 divided by 55. And then off to the side, we'll multiply 65. And it's 52. So we'll do it all in one step. So that means that missing side of DE is 52. Another way to write this, if you're just talking about a side, is you write DE and then you put a line over it like that, or you could put ED. You could put ED or DE, doesn't matter. And then you could put equals 52. Okay, so either way it would be fine because you already set x as, or we already set x as the missing side, or you could write DE equals that number. Either one would be fine. Let me resume recording. So now we're going to go over Schoology. So I'm going to go into the week 5 folder, into folder B for congruence, and we'll talk about the IXL assignment, congruent statements and corresponding parts. Okay, again, just a reminder, always make sure that you are signed in. You can see your name at the top to make sure you're signed in. All right, so what you're doing is you got to figure out the corresponding parts in the figure. Select all that apply and then select all that actually are congruent, because not all of them may be true. All right, so here I would start with this one. And remember, this little symbol just means angle. If you see that little symbol that goes that way. And then if you see a line over the top, like this one over here, then that just means a segment or a line or side, okay? Okay, so here it says angle Q is congruent. And so again, this is what I was emphasizing before. If you see that symbol right there, where it's that little wavy symbol with an equal sign, that means congruent, and they're actually equal this time. And if you notice, these triangles are identical. They're the exact same. They're not similar with like equal angles and then different sides. They're actually the exact same triangle, just with different letters and labeled differently. All right, so here we go. So we got angle Q is congruent to angle W. So I go to angle Q, it says 106 degrees. And then I go to angle W over here, and you notice it's 111 degrees. So that's not congruent. So I just don't click on it. All right, angle S and angle X. So angle S over here is 37, and it's that one here on the point, and it's the same here. So that one is congruent. Angle T and Y. So angle T, angle Y is 106, but here's where I got to be careful, because if you guys notice, there's two angles with 106. So I got to make sure it's the correct one. All right, so I'm going to start with T. And I'm going to say, okay, well, angle T is between 30 and 8 yards. If you guys see that, it's right in the middle of those two, right? So when I go over here, I got to make sure that that Y is right in the middle of 8 and 30, and it is, okay? Whereas this angle for 106 is between 8 and 14. So that one would not be congruent, but in this case it is, because we're talking about this angle right here, angle Y. Okay, so those are congruent. So you just got to be careful when you're looking at it. Make sure that you are following the same one in the same spot. Okay, side or segment ST would be this one over here. So 30 yards. And then over here, we're talking about XY. So that's also this one at 30 yards. And that one does match. So we're good there. So I would choose those three. So hopefully you got it right. Wonderful. Okay, so now complete the congruence statement. All right, so now again, think about what we just did, how the letters have to match up with the corresponding parts, right? So basically what I need to start with is where does R correspond with this shape over here? Okay, well, R is 144, okay? And over here, if I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, there's two 144s, so which one do I choose? Okay, well, all right, well, let's see. Let's first start with what sides they're between. All right, so I noticed that R is between 40 and 40. And over here, V is between 40 and 40. But then if you guys notice, this is also between 40 and 40. So it's like, wait, which one do we choose? All right, well, maybe I'll look at the other angles. Let me choose a different color. Okay, well, it's between 40 and 40. So R is between 40 and 40. And the next angle over is 36 and 36. So do I choose T or V? Well, let's see. So let's just go ahead and start with one. We'll say V. All right. So V. And if we're going to go with V, it says Q is next. So that means it's going this direction. Like, let me show you what I mean. If we're going from R to Q, that means we're going to go, what direction is that? That would be counterclockwise. So that means from on this triangle, we'll go from V to W, and then W to T, and then from T to U. So we want to go in that direction. Okay, so here we go, V, W, T, U. All right, let's see if we got it. And we're good. All right, so, and on that one, you could have gone in either direction. Okay, so that one, because that shape was so like symmetrical, like it had so many similar sides, you could have gone in either direction and still been correct with that one. So, but this one, you can see it's not like super symmetrical, like every angle is different, and only two sides are the same. So this one will be a little bit different. So we're gonna start with H, and H is 134. So that means that matches up with P over here. And then G is next. So it goes from H to G. So that means we wanna go from P to Q, and then just kind of rotate ourselves around in this direction with the letters, okay? So we're going from H to G to F to E. So again, we'll just repeat that over here when we write it out. So we'll go from P, Q, R, S. So don't always think it's just like, oh, start with the first letter in the alphabet. Like you got to follow the actual, you want to follow the actual shape and the congruent statement down here to know where you're going. Okay, any questions on that one? Let me pause the video. Okay, so here we're starting with D, then we're going to C. So from D, oops, my bad. We're gonna go from D to C, and then from C to B, and then obviously that means we go from B to D, but we only need to write the three letters. So here we're gonna go from 57 degrees is D, so that means we're starting with X. And then we're gonna go to the 33 degree corner. So that means we would go from X to V. And since there's only three letters, that makes it easy. So we just go from V to W. And once you know like what direction you're going, you just go around the shape. It's like, I'm either going clockwise or counterclockwise. And once I know that, you should know which letter to go with next. So X, V, W. Hopefully we got it. Looks good. All right. Okay, so let's go on to the next assignment. Oh, I gotta turn this thing off. All right, so, all right, there we go. All right, so now we're going to the next IXL assignment. And on that last one, I think you had to get 80. Okay. I always like to kind of go a little bit further because sometimes the questions change as you go through, as you guys notice. Okay. Now it says these figures are congruent. What is YW? All right. So that, in other words, we don't know. It doesn't give it to you. You got to look at this shape over here and figure out where does it correspond to the other shape. Well, this one I notice is, and again, there's no one way of doing this. You can look at a number of different things. You can say, okay, that if I go from, I can say that when I go from G to I and then I to H, it goes 71 to 87. So I could say, okay, well, that the same thing as X to W and then W to Y. So that means that this has to be 87. So that's one way to see it. Or I could say that 87 is straight across from 90. And you could see 90 is not written over here. So that must mean that this corner right here is 90. And if you use like the triangle sum theorem, you could figure that out and say, okay, well, this corner here, X plus 35 plus 55 equals 180, and then figure out that that angle is 90, which, I mean, it's pretty obvious when you look at it anyways. So again, I would just say, okay, well, this one's straight across from 90, and so I know it's 87. And a lot of you guys, you're gonna be able to see that pretty easily, okay? All right, so that one's gonna be 87. Clear that away. All right, so it says, this triangle ONP is congruent to RST. What is RST? All right, so let's kind of go back to what we did in the notes, again, using the statement to figure out that missing side ST. So again, here, we're looking for ST, which is the last two letters in the statement. So that means that the last two letters here are congruent, and you can see here that NP is the side that is congruent to that, so it would be 40. Okay, so again, you just want to pay attention to the congruent statement here to figure out where to go. So here would be just 40 meters. Oops. Sorry, it's jumping around a lot. It's kind of hard to control the screen when I'm annotating or writing on the screen. So this you would do the same thing here. You can see that angle V. So now it's talking about an angle and saying, what is angle V? So here, V is in the middle. So that means Q is the one that matches up. And so I just look at Q, which is 59, and that'll tell me what the congruent side is. Or sorry, what the congruent angle is, okay? All right, so you kind of do the same thing here. You know, this is the last one I'll do for this assignment. Okay, what is angle R? So that means this angle right here. So we got to figure out where it corresponds over here. Well, I know I see a 93 and a 74, but I don't see 74 over here. Okay, but I do see, let's say 59. 59 and 74 are like right next to each other. Okay, so that means that 59 should be right next to the 74 right here. So that means that this side is 20, this side must be 30, and you can see that R, it corresponds with K. Okay, so you kind of have to do a little investigating. You can see that the 90s here, you just got to make sure you're kind of oriented, you know, the same way. You could even kind of like rotate the picture, you know, if you wanted to, but you kind of have to do it in your head, obviously. I wonder if I could take a screenshot. See what happens if I do that. So if I just took a screenshot, and now I'm gonna see if it'll let me rotate it. Because in class, honestly, when we do this type of thing, we usually use like paper to actually rotate it. And you can see I kind of rotated it, and that kind of helped. So you guys could take a screenshot, and I don't know if you guys can do that. and rotate it around for yourself. So that might be one way. All right, so that would just be 142. We got it right. All right, great, wonderful. All right, any questions on that stuff? All right, so just for the video recording, again, what I did, guys, is I did a quick screen capture and pasted that in Google Draw, and then I was able to rotate it around to orient the shapes together. So that's something you guys could do for you guys that are watching this video.